Good afternoon. My name is Kyle Glazier, and I'm Chatham's Director of Annual Giving. I'm very pleased to welcome you to President David Finegold's retrospective and Q&A for Chatham's Annual Day of Giving. Thank you all for your continued support and for joining us for this special event. For those of you who might be unfamiliar with Chatham's Day of Giving, it is a 24-hour fundraising event that brings together faculty, staff, alumni, students, parents, and friends, all to show their support for Chatham through giving. Thanks to your generosity, we have already raised over $100,000 today. This year, we're also celebrating President David Finegold and his wife, Sue, who generously launched our first Day of Giving 7 years ago with their support. The Finegolds are once again generously supporting Chatham with matching funds. These are live right now. Over half of the matching dollars for undergraduate scholarships are already gone on our Give Campus page. So be sure to make your gift shortly after this event. If you haven't already, I believe we'll have plenty of links in the chat if you don't know where to go. And without further delay, please welcome Dr. David Finegold, Chatham's 19th president. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Kyle, and welcome everyone. It's great to have you here today. I want to thank everyone for participating in today's webinar and for all of you who have already contributed to meet the matching gift that Sue and I made. I hope those who haven't will take the opportunity to do so during our Day of Giving today. And I also wanted to thank the tremendous team we have in University Advancement who have been doing months of planning to get today ready and hopefully have it executed flawlessly. It's off to a great start, but thanks to Carrie, Kyle, and the whole team who've come together to work on this. So what I thought I'd do in a few minutes today is just try to sort of sum up my last 7 years at Chatham and some of the highlights, the things I'm most proud of, and then we'll have plenty of time at the end for question and answer. So look forward to talking with all of you. So when I look back on the last 7 years, there's really 5 big areas that I wanted to highlight where I think we've really, and I should stress it's not just me, but this is a whole team, a whole university effort where we've made great progress during that time. So the ones I wanted to touch on today were our successful transition to an all-gender institution, strengthening the academic core of Chatham, growing our leadership in sustainability, expanding our focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and deepening our partnerships in the community. So I'll talk about each of those in a little bit. The undergrad story, I think many of you already know. So at a time when many of our competitors here in Western PA have seen shrinking enrollment because of the falling number of high school graduates, we've seen tremendous success with our undergraduate enrollment growing from before the co-ed transition just below 600 to where it is today, over 1,200 students, increasing our national reach and really improving the quality at the same time. And I'm really proud of how we've done that. We've been able to improve our retention and graduation rates. We've transformed with Leonard's great leadership and our wonderful staff and athletics, the whole approach to athletics at Chatham. We went from having very few student athletes, many of whom had not been recruited to come, to now having over 400 of our undergraduates are successful student athletes coming from across the country, around the world, really raising our profile in that way and having great success, not just in the classroom, but in their athletic competition. And through all of that, we've retained our strong historic focus on women's leadership and gender equity. I hope many of you had a chance to join us last week for the Hillman Lecture, one of the highlights of the year when we had Cecile Richards meeting with our students and sharing her leadership in championing reproductive rights in the country. We've had some wonderful folks through the Center for Women in Politics that's helped boost the number of women in elected office throughout the Commonwealth. And through the Women's Institute and our Center for Women's Entrepreneurship, we have, if anything, even more activity around championing these issues than we did when we were a single-sex institution for undergrad. Along with that, to help boost those graduation and retention rates, we've really invested and greatly improved our supports for students' health and well-being. Our JED campus initiative with other Pittsburgh institutions and the creation of a new counseling center model, our student success coaches that help every new student at Chatham navigate that college transition. Those have all been really great efforts to improve our performance and the value we're able to provide to our students. A second area I really wanted to highlight was the strengthening of the academic core of the university. One of the things the growth has enabled is expanding our full-time faculty. So we've been able to add 25 full-time faculty members during the time here. And what that means is not just new majors, but also more choice for students. Often in a small institution like Chatham, you only have 1 or 2 faculty members in a particular area. So being able to add to that really expands the range of our offerings and what we can do. We've been able to add a great set of new academic programs like immersive media, neuroscience, an athletic training program, undergraduate program in food studies. And so broadening the offerings for our students. And one of the most exciting things has been the huge expansion we've seen in students working with faculty on published research. That was just getting started when I first got here. And now so much of it is happening that we can't even present it all in one student research day. We have 2 a year, and we have separate sessions in the morning and afternoon because there's so much exciting work to be presented. And that's one of the richest learning experiences students can have. I was also really pleased that in a faculty-led process, we were not able to just reinstitute tenure, which Chatham had phased out more than 20 years ago, but to introduce a form of tenure that is broader and more inclusive than almost any institution in the country, and I think will serve Chatham extremely well for many generations to come. Worked hard, meeting with every faculty member in their office, really investing in and building the trust and those relationships so that we could restore a sense of shared governance, which I think is one of the hallmarks of every great university in the US. And part of rebuilding that trust is we've really been able to reduce employee turnover, which is, of course, key to being able to deliver a great experience for our students. A third area I wanted to point to was the tremendous growth and success we've seen around sustainability. When I arrived in 2016, we had just finished the investment and opened the Eden Hall campus with the Barazoni Center, with our first dorm there. And so we've seen tremendous growth in the enrollment in the Falk School. The Eden Hall campus and the Falk School have now got to the point where they are covering that great $50 million investment that the university made to build out the greenest campus in the US. We now rank top 10 in the country in terms of the number of degrees awarded at both undergraduate and graduate level in sustainability and in food studies at the graduate level. One of our fastest growing majors that we relocated to Eden Hall is in environmental science. And we've had great recognition of this, ranking number 4 in Princeton's review of all of the colleges and universities in the US for sustainability. The fact that I was asked to chair the more than 450 colleges and universities that came together in second nature to commit to getting to net zero. So the fact that Chatham was in that role with huge universities like Arizona State and Berkeley and others, I think is a real testament to the commitment we've had, the chance to go and represent the institution at the UN Global Climate Summit a couple of times. So that's really raised our profile in this area. And we have exciting initiatives underway to continue that positive momentum. We've adding a great range of new faculty and staff this year that are really going to strengthen the offerings of the Falk School. We should be breaking ground this spring on the Rachel Carson Eco Village. They have the deposits in, all set to move forward with that, the first Eco Village built on a university campus in the US. And we have a really exciting partnership we've been building on the academic level with the National Aviary located here in Pittsburgh, and a wonderful design for a new conservation center and new academic offerings like conservation biology, looking at biodiversity, and also a potential offering for those who want to become veterinarians to prepare them to enter that highly lucrative and in-demand field. Another area that we identified right when I started back in 2016 as a big gap was we had really no staff, no leadership, no programming specifically devoted to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So we created a new office for that area. We hired our first chief diversity officer. We've instituted a wide range of new initiatives that have helped to broaden the diversity of our hiring and our student recruitment. We're just completing, under Dr. Kristen Duke's leadership, the first university-wide diversity, equity, and inclusion plan. And this was really brought home to me, the impact this is having last year when we had our commencement speaker, Jessica Bird, who was here, and she came not just to the overall university commencement, but she came to one of our new traditions, the multicultural graduation ceremony that we have the day before. And she was so moved by the programming there, the students there, none of which existed when she was going through Chatham. She said, is there any chance I could have one of those stoles that the students are getting to wear at graduation? And of course, we gave her one, and others, alums like Vanessa Thompson, who was there representing the alumni board, we gave one. And so it really a wonderful sort of tangible symbol of where we've come in building leadership in that area. Finally, one of the things that I've really loved about Pittsburgh, and I've really tried to stress for Chatham, is I think we benefit hugely from being in one of America's great college cities in Pittsburgh. And so I've focused on trying to build win-win partnerships that move the university forward, but also help and engage with our community partners. And so was very excited to build a partnership with the Tree of Life, and then subsequently the Holocaust Center of Pittsburgh, which has now moved its academic home into Chatham. It's helped us add some new minors, some new very popular classes, a wonderful exhibit. If you haven't already seen it, I encourage you to check it out in the first floor of the library. And with the dynamic new leader for Tree of Life, I think you'll see some very prominent announcements and a groundbreaking coming up this year for the rebuilding of that. I think Chatham can really be seen, along with our partners, as a true international leader in combating identity-based violence and hatred in all of its forms. We've worked through the Craft Center in Falk School with a wide range of partners in the local food system. As an example, when the pandemic hit and all the restaurants had to close, Craft partnered with local restaurants to say, can we set up a system to take online orders from your customers and then have that food delivered to restaurant workers and others in need? So the restaurants had a revenue stream, and it helped those who were directly impacted by the pandemic. All sorts of exciting initiatives Craft is doing to strengthen the sustainability and the economic vitality of the local food system in Pittsburgh. We've had a great partnership with the Environmental Charter School, one of the highest performing public schools here in the Pittsburgh region, as they build out their high school to dual enrollment. So all of their students will be graduating with Chatham credits as well, and hopefully many of them electing to come to Chatham. Part of building our athletic success has been really creative partnerships with local community groups. So Graham Field was a partnership with the Wilkinsburg School District. Westfield, the historic home to the Homestead Grays, is now home for our men's baseball and women's softball teams. And we just broke ground last month on an exciting facility that Steel City Squash is building in Larimer that will serve as the home for our men's and women's squash teams. Great examples that all help the community while helping Chatham as well, and meaning we get great facilities without having to do it all ourselves. We've had wonderful success with the Pennsylvania Center for Employee Ownership. We're about to launch the first citywide campaign ever in the US to promote the growth of employee-owned firms. And thanks to PCO's great work, the last 3 years running, Pennsylvania has ranked #1 in the country for new employee-owned firms. A great way, and one of the few sort of win-win solutions that both Republicans and Democrats can agree on to build intergenerational wealth and address inequality. We've had a range of lifelong learning initiatives, from opening it up so all of our alums can join the CMU Osher Lifelong Learning Program, now offered jointly with Chatham, having our health science students living in Shenley Gardens. And so other efforts like that, and our partnership with Age Friendly Pittsburgh, another great local nonprofit that we are hosting at Chatham. And one of the things I'm most excited for the future has been a joint effort with all of the 11 colleges and universities in Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh Scholar House. This is a model that Louisville pioneered that we've now brought to Pittsburgh. that will help single parents and their children both graduate from college with subsidized housing and wraparound supports. We have a really dynamic leader for that, Diamante Walker, and I'm very confident that this is going to be something that is going to transform hundreds of lives here in Pittsburgh and help revitalize neighborhoods that badly need that. So lots of great momentum that we've built over the last 7 years. And I'd ask you all to think about ways you can help us keep Chatham thriving as we prepare for this presidential transition. There are so many ways you can get engaged and help the university. Join Chatham Connect and mentor some current students in your field. If you have the opportunities, take on an intern or a clinical placement if you're in the health science field, or make a referral or offer an employment opportunity for one of our able new graduates. You can post your jobs on Handshake, which is the system that we use in career development to help our graduates find great opportunities. And when you're out in the local community, out, meeting with folks who are looking at colleges, please encourage them to visit, encourage them to check out The Chair on Netflix and see our campus, because we find if people come, they get to know us, a high percent want to come and study at Chatham. I'd ask, if you haven't already, please join in and help us make this the most successful day of giving ever. Sue and I were really excited to help kick this off 7 years ago, and we hope this will be another really lasting Chatham tradition that benefits our students for generations to come. So just as a final note before we go to the Q&A, if you haven't already, I'd encourage you to check out our Day of Giving video. Tried to end on a high note for these. As you'll see, there's not many things I can do any worse than I've done up till now. And also stay tuned throughout the year, throughout the day, because there may be some fun bonuses to come via social media at the end of the day. So please stay engaged and help us end the Day of Giving on a really high note. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Dr. Finegold. My name's Carrie Miller. I'm Vice President of Advancement here at Chatham, and I just want to welcome you all. Thank you for joining us today. We have a list of questions that have come through early, but I really want to encourage you to use the question and answer function, the Q&A there on your screen. Add a question to the chat. We will get to as many as we can over the next couple minutes. We have some time. So I'm going to start with a few of the questions that came in early. And the first one for you, Dr. Finegold, is what accomplishment in your 7 years at Chatham are you the most proud of?
Thanks, Carrie. Well, I tried in the presentation to highlight, 5 of the areas I think were really big accomplishments over this time. My guess is of those I've highlighted, that probably the 2 that will have the most lasting impact for Chatham will be the tremendous growth and success we've had with transforming the undergraduate experience and the reinstituting of an innovative new form of tenure, which is making it much easier for us to attract and retain some of the top faculty talent that deliver great opportunities to our students. But one other thing that I didn't touch on, but I thought is worth highlighting, is that, I'm not a big fan of the US News and World Report rankings. I think there's a lot of flaws in them. But the fact that Chatham, during my tenure, moved from being a regionally ranked university to one of the top 200 national universities, and that among those top 200 peers, we ranked #1 in Pennsylvania, ahead of places like Carnegie Mellon, Pitt, the University of Pennsylvania, for social mobility. Because that ranking was how many high-need students are coming to your institution and how many of them are graduating. And so I think that is a testament. It's a perfect measure of what Chatham is all about in creating empowering opportunities for our students. And I don't just think of it in terms of the data and the rankings, but I think of it in individual student stories who I've gotten to know during my time. So I think of Yusuf, the Syrian refugee who came to this country with nothing, graduated from one of the top community colleges in Washington, D.C., and came to Chatham on a presidential scholarship on a full ride. Yusuf was an amazing leader in our community, all over campus, got a great job in data science when he graduated, and he did so well that he's now helping finance his younger brother, Leo, who's doing equally well at Chatham. this August, the whole team pulled together with almost no notice when we got a request from the New York Times to say, we've had 100 families who helped us in Afghanistan come to the United States. They're in Houston now. They're looking for, many of them are looking for places to go to college. Could Chatham help? Could other Pittsburgh institutions help? And so within a matter of days, we were able to accept 3 students, sisters, Marwa and Mursal and Wais, all came. They've all thriving at Chatham. I think they're all going to be amazing contributors to the community here in the United States. And it was that willingness of the team to come together to help change the lives of students. That's the thing I think I'm most proud of.
That's a really great memory. Now, I know that this is going to be a tough one for you to answer, but was there anything that surprised you as president of Chatham University? And, we don't have all day, David, so think about the one that was the most surprising.
So I would say, one of the joys of the job is almost no 2 days are the same. You're just never quite sure what you're going to face. And so a couple that come to mind, both on the positive and the negative side of surprises. So a couple of real, jolting negative surprises that had no thoughts about when I joined. So one was, thought we were in great shape. We grown the numbers. We were looking really good. And then Hurricane Michael hit in Florida, and it took out our biggest single source of clinical placements for our top program, our physician assistant program, overnight. So we went from 80 students to 50 students because we couldn't assure the places that we needed. And so that's been a struggle ever since to rebuild that. Just when we recovered from that, a global pandemic. And so again, I didn't think I was going to be a public health official when I signed on for this job, but the whole team came together. And not just us, but we were on twice-a-week calls with all the other Pittsburgh presidents, the county executive, the health commissioner. And so we got through all of the pandemic without a single major outbreak in Pittsburgh. Obviously, we had cases, but the team pulled together and we got through it in a tremendous way. Some of the positive surprises. So I thought, frankly, when I was first contacted about the job, I never thought I'd get it because knowing Chatham had just gone all gender, I thought, they're not going to hire a guy for this job. It doesn't make any sense. But not only was I hired, but I found what I thought was going to be a big issue has turned out to be a non-issue. I think people have been so welcoming. They know that I'm a champion of gender equity and inclusion and want Chatham to keep those values. And so what I thought would be a big concern turned out not to be. And Pittsburgh, which we really didn't know, Sue and I, before the job, has been a wonderful, pleasant surprise. The city's so welcoming, so many great things to do here, so accessible. The cooperation among the colleges and universities, I think, is second to none in the country. So there have been some really wonderful, pleasant surprises along with those unforeseen setbacks.
That's great. Can you give the big picture of how Chatham is faring regarding enrollment and how that compares to other schools?
Yeah, I touched on this in the slide I showed about our strong enrollment growth. There are only 3 institutions in Western PA that have grown in the last decade: Pitt, Carnegie Mellon, and Chatham. That's pretty good company to be in. Now, while undergrad has been performing extremely well, where we're facing challenges is in our graduate programs. And those are the biggest moneymaker for the university. Our programs continue to be very strong, but Chatham was an early mover in the health sciences. So what saved the university when my predecessor, Esther, first joined was launching a whole string of really successful graduate health science programs. Those grew to be over 70% of our enrollment and was real lifeblood of the university. Well, seeing our success and others, many of our small private peers have said, oh, look, that works. And so while we used to be one of the only games in town for it, now there's a lot more competition. And there are big national competitors like Southern New Hampshire and ASU and Penn State Global that are moving heavily into the online market. And so again, while we were an early mover in that, and then we were competing with the for-profits who frankly didn't offer a really good education, now we have very good universities that are offering online degrees and doing it nationally and around the world. So we have a lot more competition in graduate than we did before. And that does definitely pose as a challenge.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to kind of merge two questions that deal with the liberal arts next that came in earlier. The one is asking if you can provide examples of ways liberal arts have been strengthened during your tenure, and why should a bright, academically ambitious student attend Chatham? And then kind of touching on the fact of, history majors and English majors that have been showing a decline, in the media, and just how all of this is looking, how liberal arts are looking at Chatham.
Yeah. So I think another really nice aspect of the overall undergraduate growth has been what it's done to enable us to strengthen the liberal arts. It's something that Sue and I heard early in our tenure, how important the arts course was to so many of our alums who had been here in the 50s, 60s, 70s. And so when we very first year we were here, we instituted the fine arts with the Finegolds to take advantage of all of the great arts and culture in Pittsburgh and expose our students to it. All Chatham students, all undergraduates, take 1/3 of their courses in general education, in the liberal arts. So everyone is taking 2 writing courses. They're taking history, they're taking visual arts, they're taking social sciences. So everyone gets that wide-ranging education. And we've been able to expand our offerings in history and in English and creative writing. So we have over 80 courses in English and creative writing, over 40 courses in history. We have 25 students in our creative writing undergraduate program, along with the MFA. We have 18 students in history on average and about 20 in English. So we have students choosing to major in it. We have more students who are doing minors in those areas. And we're really seeing a growth in what we're able to offer to all of our students. But I would also go a little beyond what people may traditionally think of as the liberal arts. So I mentioned the Holocaust Center partnership, and one of the most exciting aspects of the Holocaust Center is the Light Centers. These are centers in 15 different high schools around the region, and we now have a Light student club from the graduates of those at Chatham. And the founder of that, Nick Haberman, describes Light Centers as a maker space for the humanities, a place where students can come together and go do oral history projects or a sustainability project with the local community. And so I think the richest way for thinking about liberal arts today in the 21st century is getting students together in interdisciplinary teams, seeing things from a system perspective and solving real world problems that improve the community. Another example I'd give of that is our immersive media program. So we're not looking to train people to be deep computer programs in virtual and augmented reality. What we're trying to do is educate the next generation of storytellers and educators who can use these new technologies to be effective at entrancing and creating compelling virtual worlds and experiences. And so I think the liberal arts is thriving, but in new and exciting ways at Chatham.
That's a great point. And so this is shifting gears a little bit, but it's asking, what do you envision as your next endeavor?
So I actually am really energized and excited about what I'll be doing next. I think we had shared when I first announced, I've got a couple of books based on the podcast that I'm going to be writing, but and that's on the future of higher ed and transformational leaders in higher ed. But knowing myself, I only see myself doing that for a couple of hours each day. And so I have 4 projects I'll be working on next. A couple are startups from the Netherlands that I'll be helping to bring to the US in the sustainability space. One is a company called Tor Green and Tor Power that can take any form of dry bio waste and turns it into a green coal. So in theory, if we can get enough feedstock, we could run all the remaining coal plants in the US on a renewable fuel. And we can help turn things that are now a waste product and turn them into a revenue stream to help farmers be more sustainable in their practice and work sustainably. We also, at the end of the year, will have the first of the indoor greenhouses, local farm shops opening in partnership with Manchester Bidwell. And this is to do Dutch-style hydroponics indoor greenhouses and create in food deserts in areas that don't have access to fresh produce, to create a new local farm shop where people be able to go in, choose from 75 or 80 different fresh green vegetables, along with a whole range of produce from partner local farmers. And so we think those can be a really great effort to improve the local community. I'm going to be launching a higher ed nonprofit to build a national transfer network for community college students to be able to go to their best fit public or private college or university. And then working to support social impact labs in some of the leading business schools around the country, Stanford, Chicago, Kellogg at Northwestern, to help them maximize their impact and support for nonprofits tackling important social problems. So I should be fairly busy. So I'm saying to folks, I'm not retiring. I'm just getting ready for a new phase.
That's excellent. Well, I'm going to keep along those lines. I've got a couple questions here in the chat that I'm going to jump to because they fit. A little more lighthearted. Any post-Chatham vacations for you and Sue? And this person says you're well deserving of one.
Thank you. And yes, absolutely. So right when we finish, it happens that the last week or last day officially at Chatham is also going to be the start of the 120th reunion of the Rhodes Scholarship that I had in Oxford. So Sue and I are planning to
go. It was 120 years ago that you did it.
I didn't do it quite that long. I know this job has aged me. That's when Cecil Rhodes started it. So this is the 120th anniversary of setting up the scholarships. And so I'll have a chance to reconnect with a lot of classmates that I was studying with there. And then we're going to use that as the start of a 2.5-week vacation or so in England, take some well-deserved time there, see Sue's family and our friends there. And so looking forward to that, and also having a bit more flexibility in this next phase to do some global traveling. So that's definitely on the agenda.
Excellent. And so then 10 years from now, when the Chatham community looks back on your presidency, what do you hope is the thing that will stand out the most?
I hope, we just finished our second strategic plan, and I hope the vision that I had sort of outlined there, and I think Chatham is really on a path toward this, is that Chatham would be seen as one of the leading urban liberal arts universities in the country. So I think while there will be a continued growth in online education, I think for a lot of students, when they're coming out of high school and trying to choose where they want to go, they're looking for two things. They want to be in a great campus environment where they really get to know their faculty, small classes, a safe place, a beautiful place like our Shadyside and Eden Hall campuses. But they'd also like to be in a thriving college city with great sports, cultural and arts, outdoor activities, affordable place to live. And I think for folks who have those two criteria, I think we're one of the best options in the country. But the problem is there's still not enough people in the country who know Chatham is there. And so what I hope is that people will look back and say, some of what you did, some of these efforts and what you built with the undergraduate started us on the path toward that. Because that, I think, with all of the challenges that we will face with the shrinking number of high school graduates locally, that's the path to thriving, I think, in the coming day.
That's great. And so what characteristics do you see as being vital, I can't talk, for the next Chatham president?
Well, that's not my call. That's the board and the search committee. And I think that their work, it should just be wrapping up. Hopefully there'll be an announcement in the next few weeks. And so they put a lot of care into the job description for that. And I understand, though I have not been part of the process, had a really great field, a diverse field, a lot of really talented applicants. I think, just being very frank, I think the next decade, while all the challenges I referred to has been tough, the next one is going to be even worse, because the underlying fundamentals, if you look at all 50 states in the country, Pennsylvania ranks the bottom of the 50 in terms of the number of higher ed institution places and the number of high school grads. So we have a huge oversupply. And we're seeing that every day with rival schools that are offering unsustainable financial aid packages to students because they can't fill their dorms. Well, our dorms are full. So I think Chatham, to continue thriving, is going to need a leader that can navigate those challenging waters and continue to innovate, continue to come up with important high demand new programs, continue to build partnerships that will help a university that doesn't have a huge endowment, it doesn't have a lot of resources, that can help it to be agile and navigate what will be a very challenging time.
That's a good point. So another question that came in was, what do you see as the future for growth and development in things like dance, theater, and education? And there's a question that came along that is kind of also hitting at the same point about how we can address the national shortages in public school teachers and nurses. So I'm throwing it all together there.
Yeah, I think there are some great opportunities for Chatham in those areas. So in nursing, that's already an area of great strength for us, from the undergraduate to the master's to the doctor of nursing practice. And there is a huge national shortage exacerbated during COVID. And because we can deliver all of those programs virtually, we have an opportunity to really serve the need nationally. So one of the things I'm very excited about that's just launching this spring is a new partnership with UPMC, where any nurse working in UPMC will be able to come to Chatham with all of their tuition costs covered by UPMC. So that is a huge thing. It removes the price barrier, and hopefully it will allow us to not just attract more nurses, but to increase the diversity of the nursing pool to meet that need. Education is an area where, if you look at us relative to our leading peers, I would say we really have underperformed, but there's a huge need and there's a real opportunity. And so I mentioned the partnership with the Environmental Charter School. Not just do they share our commitment on sustainability, but they are actually one of the most innovative in terms of pedagogy and teaching of all of the public schools I've seen. And they are excited to be a lab school for Chatham, where all of our teachers in training could go and do some of their teaching practice. And they have K through 12 now. And so they could do it at all the different levels. And so I think it's going to need innovative partnerships like that to keep us thriving and vital. On dance and theater, those are two things that part of the liberal arts that we restarted during my time. We have minors there. Sue and I are looking forward this weekend. We have a student musical this weekend, Heather, and I knew they were thriving because it's not just an 8, but they're also doing a midnight performance. We will not be going to that. But I think they're confident that they can draw a lot of students at that hour. But we launched a new band. We have a great new band director. And so we have a jazz ensemble, we have pep band. And so I think we're really going to be strengthening and seeing the growth there, because it's not just the formal courses themselves. Having those arts thriving is part of an overall exciting liberal arts environment where there's fun things to go to on the weekend and classmates to support, in the same way people go to the sporting events to support their fellow classmates.
That's a great segue into a question we have online here that asks, it says athletics has significantly grown since you started. Do you have any sports highlights you want to share?
Well, there are a lot of highlights. One of the really fun journeys. So the year I started was the first year for our men's basketball team. And I knew we were in trouble because I could look straight in the eye a lot of the guys on our team. And that was not a good thing if we were going to be competitive. So they didn't win many games in that first year. But by the time those first years graduated their senior year, we won the conference championship, our first team championship in the PAC. Subsequent to that, our women's soccer team won 2 straight PAC championships and nearly won, just lost in the final, a third. And they're not just excelling on the field, but they are outstanding in the classroom as well. So the team GPA one year was 3.8, which was the 3rd highest team GPA in the whole of Division III in the country. So they are great students going on to medical school, our PA program, all sorts of great opportunities after, as well as great on the field. And then one of the real highlights, which has really added to the diversity of the Chatham community, has been our men's and women's squash teams. So I'm really proud of the fact that we went from nothing to the last 3 years in a row, we won the most improved team in the country. So our men's team went from 61 to 28. Now they rank 13th in the country. And women's squash this year won the most improved by cracking the top 20 at number 19. And this has brought students from all over the world to Chatham who would never otherwise have found us. from Egypt, Pakistan, Mexico, Brazil, Argentina, Malaysia, all coming here, spreading the good word about Chatham around the world. And the other reason for doing that is it's also elevating our profile among the leading prep schools around the country, which tend to be the high schools that have squash teams. And so getting in a way we wouldn't have been before and exposing the name there. And so those are really great success stories. And one of the things we've loved about that is in squash, because there aren't that many teams around the US, it's not just playing other D3 schools, right? We beat the Naval Academy 9-0. We beat Georgetown and the University of North Carolina Tar Heels. What other sport do we get to beat the Tar Heels convincingly? And so it's been a great way to get the Chatham name on the map.
That's great. And so how best can the Gen Z carry on the legacy of Rachel Carson?
Oh, that's a great question. So one of the things I've used as a sort of tagline to summarize what are we all about at Chatham is, with the global climate crisis we're facing, I think part of our mission is we need a next generation of Rachel Carsons. That's what not just Chatham, but that's what the world needs. And she is the best single proof that you could ask for that one Chatham grad can change the world.
Yes.
Her combination of the liberal arts, being such an eloquent writer, strong grounding in biology, which is our #1 undergraduate major, and her commitment to social justice, which is our university-wide commitment, that changed the world. That gave birth to the modern environmental movement. And now we have all sorts of students they recognize the urgency of the problem, and they're committed to making a difference. So they may start up their own company that's turning plastic bottles into new fashion designs, or they may be working with Food 21 to reduce food waste and get the food in Pittsburgh to the people who really need it, or partnering on efforts like Kraft is doing. And they're getting hired by global Fortune 100 companies to run their sustainability function. So they're having a global impact. And so I think we need lots of Rachel Carsons out there, each in their own niche, really trying to make a difference. That's
great. What's one of the exciting ways that Chatham can help the Pittsburgh community thrive?
Well, I such a believer in partnerships. And so I think continuing to think of the whole of the region as our extended classroom, looking for opportunities where our students, as part of their capstone projects, as part of their research with faculty, as part of their internships, can get engaged with nonprofit partners, with startup companies, with the healthcare system, and work with them to solve joint problems, because the students learn so much through that by working on a real world problem instead of just a test or a term paper. The faculty get a chance to do their research in a way that has a tangible impact, and the community partners benefit. So I think approaching all of it with the mindset that it's not about it's all us, we have to own it all, but more how can we work together in ways that are win-win, that help everybody?
It's a great question. Great answer. So our final question, and I think this is a fitting one, is what are Sue's plans? And are there any virtual yoga classes in her future?
Absolutely. So Sue really enjoyed the transition to virtual yoga classes during the pandemic. It meant she didn't have to haul around all her blocks and mats and other things. And it's meant that she's been able to teach people, not just here in Pittsburgh, but all over the world. So she's got pupils in England and California, back in New Jersey where she used to be. And so she plans to continue it. She says, just like I say, I'm not retiring, Sue says she's not retiring. She's just going to keep teaching yoga virtually, and anybody who wants to join can join for free. So hopefully she'll be adding to health and wellness that way for many years to come.
Sounds great. And I saw a question come in and it just says hooray. So that's wonderful. So with that, if I see no other questions in our chat, I'm going to turn this back to David to make an announcement about another match that we have available.
Yeah, so I just wanted to announce and to thank. So right now, we actually have a triple match in place. So not just the remaining match from Sue and I, but one of our alums, Laurel Rice, from the class of 1972, has made an extremely generous $40,000 matching pledge. And so every dollar that's given now won't just be matched by Sue and myself, but also by Laurel. And so there's a great chance to really magnify your impact. So I know I sound like one of those in the NPR pledge drive, but please take advantage of this opportunity. And Laurel, thank you so much for your generous support again this year for our Day of Giving.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, David and Sue, so much for the generosity that you started when you got this going 7 years ago with us. We've really enjoyed seeing this program move over the 7 years and seeing all of our alumni and friends who are on this call and elsewhere join us. And so again, as NPR would say, but please do support this wonderful institution. And if you haven't made a gift yet, it's really easy. If you have made a gift, you can always make another one. We won't be sad about that, but we just appreciate that you've all been so much a part of this community and that you've joined us today. And with that, I know it's sunny here in Pittsburgh. I hope it's sunny where the rest of you are. Enjoy this beautiful weather, and thank you all so much for your support.
Thanks, everybody.